I left my family. I left my kids. I left my nightclubs, my parking company, $35 million to fight the fight.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Mafia Truths with John Alite. I'm Felix Savine, to my right, John Alite. We have a short segment for you today, but before we get into it, a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on this video, and our Patreon. We just did a live call-in with some of our fans who were able to call in live, some because of scheduling had to just leave their questions, but we answered all of them. So those are a lot of fun. If you want to be able to call in live to the show, talk to John and ask them and ask direct questions, again, subscribe to that Patreon. Link is in the description of this video, and there's other perks to it as well. Bonus content, early content, discounts to merchandise. So come be part of that Patreon family and go check that out today. And we've also been John has been signing these custom signed John Alite bats that people can see that have John's signature on them. And those have been widely popular. So if you want to get a John Alite custom signed baseball bat, go to johnalite.com right now. If you're a member of the Patreon, you get a slightly discounted price, and you can personalize them. You can add an inscription, all that good stuff. So johnalite.com to buy that, to pre-order his new book, Mafia International. You can buy that on johnalite.com. We're going to have signed photos up there if you want, baseballs. So lots of great stuff, memorabilia that you can buy. So today, Vito Genovese, I think you have something to read, though, first.
Yeah, I'm going to read this, and then we'll get into the article afterwards. This is Beaten by Mystery Assailants, Survives. This is my cousin, Billy Queso's stepdad. Billy ended up testifying against me in my trials, but this was his stepdad, who was a legitimate, serious, tough guy, Irishman from Delancey and Rivington Street. Him, my father, and my uncle, Max Queso, were all together. This is in the covers of the Daily News and various papers afterwards. Beaten by a mystery assailant, survives. Arthur Red Kelly, 28, already targeted as a tough hombre by police. Proved to be still tough early yesterday when he survived an attack by mysterious assailants. He had been shot, beaten, and left unconscious in an East Side street with a piece of metal apparently broken from a blunt weapon embedded in his head. Kelly was found lying face down at 2 a.m. near his auto, which had 3 bullet holes in it. When police responded to a call by a shooting on Madison Street and Pearl Street, his attackers had disappeared, and Kelly, when revived at Beekman Downtown Hospital, gave a rude answer to detectives Frank Mealy and William Murphy. When they asked who did it, he basically said, "Go fuck yourselves." Docs patch him up. Doctors removed the chunk of metal immediately identified from his head, from his scalp, and patched the bullet wound in his left hip from the gun holes through the car. They also traveled in a handle which they barely bruised his bludgeoned hands. They listed his injuries as severe from the blunt instrument that he was trying to protect his head from. It was the first it wasn't the first time police had a surgical report to set down at Kelly since February 18, 1957, when Kelly, assisted by 2 pals, Matthew Alite and Max Queso, in mistake of knocking down a patrolman, Albert Templet. The officer at a restaurant on 158 Delancey Street, Topolini, Officer Topolini, had objected to something that the men said about a woman he was escorting down the street. Floored by the cop, he was hit back. Topili drew his revolver and put 2 bullets into Kelly's chest. He then arrested Kelly and his companions, Matt Alite and Max Queso, on charges of felonious assault. Probably because a court clerk looked at the consideration and the judge took in consideration the wounds of suffering by the police officer shooting him. He dropped the charges to a misdemeanor and a fine. The guys were arrested and released in the next day. Kelly's record also stated in 1968, at 16, he was arrested on several other charges, later dismissed. A year afterward, he was again arrested for conspiracy of gun toting. He received the youthful offender arrest. He was again arrested for an armed robbery. He had a litany of crimes Red Kelly and his crew were accused of. So, I'll give you a background now. My father at the time wasn't a gangster, but he was friends with all the gangsters. Red Kelly was a serious gangster. Max Queso was a serious gangster. My father was a gambler, a fighter. He grew up in a hub of gangsters down on Delancey Street, where Lucky Luciano was, Vito Genovese was, Bugsy Siegel was, guys like Albert Anastasia. They were in a nightclub one night, and my uncle, actually my cousin, but I call him uncle, got into a confrontation with a couple of girls, and one of the girls he was dating, another girl said something to him, and he hit her, slapped her. That girl that he slapped was Vito Genovese's sister. There was a hit opened up on the three of them. Vito Genovese put a hit on my father, on Red Kelly, and on Max Queso. Max ended up leaving town because he's the one that hit her, and he went to Detroit. Later on, he marries one of the boss's daughter, and they had to sit down and they settled it that Max wasn't allowed back in New York anymore, and he wouldn't be killed if he didn't come back to New York. Red Kelly ended up getting that beat you just read about and shot. That he survived that. My father got a pass through Lucky Luciano's cousin, Blackie Luciano. Charlie Luciano became his partner later on in the nightclub business. So these guys were around some serious guys, serious hitters in the mob, Vito Genovese. To get a pass from Vito Genovese isn't an easy thing. Later on, Vito Genovese gets convicted on a drug charge from his good friend Lucky Luciano. Rumor had it that he paid an informant to lie and said Vito was moving drugs with him, and they convicted Vito on that drug charge. The treachery of the mob world, back to the same thing. Crime don't pay unless you pay with your life. And these are some of the situations that occur when you're on the street to that level. Hey, everybody out there. For people that don't know, I have a Patreon channel that you can subscribe to, please. And we'll talk about content that is not out on YouTube. It's exclusive. We'll cover Q&A on a regular basis once a month. We sell my baseball bats and they're autographed, and we will talk about content that you won't hear anywhere else but here on Patreon. Thank you, everybody. Please reach out and subscribe. Thank you.
Did you ever have any other kind of similar?
Well, years later, to finish that story, actually, Red Kelly ends up coming with me in 1994 when I get arrested for attacking John Kelly after he pulled a pistol on me. Red Kelly's actually involved with driving me back and forth to court. Richie Raybach was my attorney, who was John Gotti Sr.'s attorney, who became my attorney. John gave him to me. While we were at court in Nassau County, Mineola, Red would come with me, unbeknownst to everybody else. After court, Red would meet me with John Gotti Jr. in the parking lot or at the diner across the street in Mineola. There was a little luncheonette, and Richie Raybach, and we would sit down and talk, but I never told them who Red Kelly was at the time. They knew he was my cousin Billy Queso, who also later on testifies against me, but he's his stepdad. And we never have those conversations, and Red told them, don't tell him who I am. He didn't want them to know at the time. So he's still around and he's alive. He's in his late 80s. My dad's alive and he's in his late 80s. And Max just passed away.
Wow. Your dad, so your dad was never really involved in any?
My dad was obviously partners with, guys like Lucky Luciano, who did the favor for his cousin and, saved my father. But he was a bookmaker, a fighter, a gambler, a serious gambler. He owned clubs in Lodi. And he was around guys like Al Greco and these guys since he's a kid. It was serious. Al got life sentence. We did a show on him, Handsome Jack. These are the Jersey crew guys. These guys were involved in Genovese family later on in life. So these are serious gangsters back to the days of the guys I really respect, not 99% of the guys that don't do any work. These guys are serious workers, all of them.
When did Lucky Luciano pass?
Lucky ended up going back, I believe, he's been dead years, but Lucky went back, and Vito and Lucky at that time were best friends at one time. And if I read you the history of Vito Genovese, Lucky Luciano, Bugsy Siegel, and you see the treachery of the killing going on, Lucky ended up going back to Italy, I believe, before he passed. We got to check that.
And he died peacefully, or?
Somewhat peacefully, I believe. We got to look it up, actually, so we don't want to put that up.
Yeah, right. And I also just had another question about your dad. Did he know everything that you were doing at the time?
Well, my dad thought I could be like him and skate the life, and his friends were the killers and the gangsters. You know, my mom's side of the family, my grandfather on my mom's side was actually a killer, and I think we discussed that on the other show. He killed a couple guys. He was a gangster and a gambler. My dad, no, he was a business. You know, he owned nightclubs, and he, like all gamblers, he was up and down. He owned nightclubs. He owned the famous Hammerheads nightclub in Long Island. For the people that know it, that was his club for many years, out in West Islip on Sunrise Highway, and a very famous. Aerosmith played there. Queen played there. The Ramones, some serious group, Zebra, and it was a Blue Oyster Cult. And I'm trying to think some of the big guys.
But did he know exactly what you were doing?
Oh, he knew later on. He tried to stop me, but it was too late. He used to call me Little Al, too, as a kid. There's a million nicknames because he said Al Greco was a maniac. And he goes, you're no different than Little Al now. So I said, it's a good thing or a bad thing? He goes, oh, he used to abuse me. I go, you wouldn't tell Al that. So I used to joke with him. And he used to get infuriated.
How old were you when he first kind of knew that you were doing stuff like that?
I mean, he sent me to California at a young age, at about 18, to try to shake me out. But about 15, he knew I was in trouble. I started using bats.
Where did he send you to California?
To my uncle's, but we're going to do some shows because my friend Tony, I got to say hello to him. I got to say hello to my friend Bob Costanza in Texas. We all grew up together. They're nice guys. He became a fire chief. Bob's in the movie business. And I ended up hurting a lot of people there. 3 bikers in one sitting. I stabbed another guy, another guy, Mike Johnson. Yeah, I got into a lot of trouble. But actually, I got to say hello to one of the guys. He's a roofer there. And I kicked him in the face years ago. And he was handcuffed at the time from behind. I don't know why I kicked him.
Why are you saying hi to him?
Because he sent me a message that he wanted to thank me. And I didn't understand why he was thanking me. Because at the time when he got pulled over, he had an ounce of coke in his car. And the police were going to arrest him. And by me kicking him in the face, they arrested me and let him go.
Wow.
No hard feelings. Actually, it's funny because we're all old, we're not kids anymore, and it's crazy how things happen. But I'm glad I can help you out with a kick in the face.
God, love it. Well, thank you for a nice little story on Vito Genovese. And when your dad tried to get you straightened out, he failed, though. He failed.
Yeah, he failed. I wanted to be like Vito Genovese, like Luciano Bugsy Siegel, Albert Anastasia. That's some crew. You imagine these guys coming in. They came out on a hit squad. There was 6 of them, I believe, or 5 of them to hit a guy. And you imagine these guys coming to see you. That's when you had serious gangsters out there. And I think that's when most of these guys are listening to some of these guys talking. But that's a far cry from those days to today.
Right. Well, thank you guys for listening, watching. John, thank you for the stories, and we'll keep churning these out.
Sorry for the reading; it was a little dull, the words, but I actually can read pretty good.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.